Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and today we are speaking to Team Elite Warriors head coach and seasoned competitor who consistently places top 5 in pro bikini and has graced the stage of Arnolds Classic Australia and the Olympia. She is the regional general manager and partner of Island Club and Spa, a high-end luxury fitness club and spa in Honolulu, Hawaii, and as an IFBB bikini pro, she continues to inspire, motivate, and educate individuals on being the best they can be at any age. How are you doing, Geri?
Aloha. It wouldn't be, if Hawaii if I didn't say aloha to everybody.
That's right. I love it. Thanks so much for joining us. And everyone who's been listening knows I always got to ask the same question to start. What is a mantra, a quote, thought, a belief, just one thing that you think about before you step on stage that just gets you ready to go?
I think my why has always been, I'm very family oriented, and a lot of times people would think, what? I get up there for my family and my friends, to inspire others that, just by taking that one step on stage, that one step into your fitness journey, that one step into the unknown, whatever it is, when you take that one step, things happen, period. And so I think, when I get on stage, all I'm thinking is take that one step.
That's so awesome. I love it. And I mean, as a big believer that you are in staying grounded and in being family focused, despite your busy life. I mean, you're a mom, a wife, a coach, a business owner, and a bikini pro. So you've got a lot on your plate.
My gosh, I do all that.
You're like, yeah, that's me.
One thing at a time.
Yeah, just like you said, with one step, it's the same. And I'm curious if you ever feel like you're missing out on events or times with your family because of your choice to be an elite competitor.
I actually think that it's the opposite. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I think we waste time. We go through life just kind of floating around. When you're focused and you know exactly where you're going and you also understand your priorities, it's not so hard. In fact, I don't look at it that I'm missing out. I'm actually capitalizing on every moment. So when I'm at work, focused at the club, at Island Club and Spa, I'm there as an owner, as a general manager. When I'm training, for my contest, in that second that I'm training, I'm a competitor. When I'm with my family, when I'm with my son, my husband, or when I'm with my son, I'm a mom, period. When I'm with my husband, I'm a wife. And so I think a lot of people kind of interchange things and try to do too much at one time. And yeah, it looks like that's what I'm doing. But when I'm in the moment, and that's the key, is being in the moment, you are focused at that particular task at hand. So it's easy to really, enjoy that moment.
I absolutely love that. I think that's a great reminder as well to be fully present in each moment and recognize your role with every moment. I think people get very caught up, like you said, on interchanging roles, but also we can get distracted by other parts of our life when if we just focus on the one task at hand in this moment right now, we would perform and we would produce so much better results rather than having our mind consumed with everything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important. I still pick up my son at school every single day. I break in the middle of the day. I pick him up. And when I pick him up, my cell phone is down. I'm not talking on the phone. I'm definitely not texting and driving.
Yes, good.
I'm there. I'm connecting. I'm asking him about his day, because after I take him home and then his dad takes over. And so, but I get that hour in the middle of the day to just reconnect because I'm gone for most of the day. But I also made a promise that at bedtime, I'm home at bedtime. And so if I have to train after bedtime, so be it. But those are things that I think, when you have a family, you have to still have the boundaries and also understand that kids need the routines. And so I'm always there when he wakes up. Well, except when I'm out of town, obviously. But, I always take him to school. I always pick him up. I always, it's always bedtime. So he counts on those things. And that happens, then you have security, in your family life as well.
That's so amazing. Just hearing you say that's really almost eye-opening for me to see how you really approach that, because parts of me goes, wow, I wonder what it'd be like to actually compete when being a mom. And a lot of the girls, the other competitors and a lot of the edge girls even, they're all moms as well. And it's like, wow, what another like balancing act that they are performing. But what you're saying really makes it seem more simple. Like you're simplifying the process by just focusing on that right there, being a mom. And then when you need to go to the gym, you go to the gym. And it's not a sacrifice or a this or that. It's a this and that both matter to you. And I love that. And I want to know how your lifestyle has impacted your son's choices.
Well, that's really interesting because this is normal for my son. I don't know how. I think I laugh at that because he'll tell me, he'll come home and he'll go to a birthday party and he'll say, "Oh, I don't feel so good." And I'm like, "Why is that?" He goes, "Because I ate 2 pieces of cake and I'm having a little bit of a sugar high." And so at a young age, he understood the power of food. And so we've always taught him that food can either help you or hurt you. So from a nutritional standpoint, a lot of parents kind of deprive. Our focus was always been on education. And so he knows at an early age, what a carb is, what a protein is, what a fats, what the roles are. But, I know that's not the norm for most, but he thinks it is. But from an activity standpoint, training is a part of our lifestyle. And so for him, he's actually a Brazilian jiu-jitsu champion and also a wrestler.
Wow.
Only at 10, but he understands the work ethic involved in training every day, working at your craft, enjoying it as well, because he does enjoy it. And so I think seeing me do what I do has kind of molded him into having the same work ethic.
That's so cool. And you do discuss in one of your blog posts on your website, which everyone will receive a link to in the show notes, just so if you guys want to reference this. But what Geri talks about is how food choices impact the way that we feel and the way that we function. And this is also a huge belief of mine. I mean, I've gone so far as to say that feeding kids junk or overfeeding them is just as negligent as not feeding a child at all. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we always have to eat for purpose, right? So one of my core beliefs, other than the, triangle of success, which is also on my blog site, which you reminded me I should probably blog more, is that we have to eat for purpose. And especially so children that are growing up, children that are still developing, so much we forget, that food has a purpose. And when you understand that food is actually can again hurt you or help you, then you can understand the correlation between the two. So
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, well, my kid's young and he can do this or she can do that. So like they can eat whatever they want and it's fine. But you really bring up a good point in the fact that this is a time in this human being's life where they're developing at a rapid pace in a way that's going to shape and form the way that they function for the rest of their life. So
yeah, absolutely. It's like when you're trying to get gains as a grown up, we're all trying to, build more muscle. We're feeding ourselves, the right foods so that we can support that. Well, a child is the same thing, but even I think more important, because they got brain function, nervous system, all that stuff. So it's super important, with parents to understand that correlation. And then what tends to happen sometimes is kids get sick, things happen, and then they wonder why, and when you take a look at the nutrition that's happening, it's just inadequate to even support a healthy immune system.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's a lot of nutrition deficiencies in children because we're not giving them what they truly need, and we're not really assessing their needs properly. And actually, that makes me wonder about you and your approach to lifestyle. I mean, even outside of just competing, because I feel like competing is, it's obviously a lifestyle. It's something that it just becomes a habit. But it's easy for people to fall into nutrient deficiencies when they are competing, because sometimes the diet can be a little bit repetitive and monotonous. What's your approach on this, or how do you see that, and has this impacted you?
Well, it's really interesting that you should say that, because time and time again, when I have new athletes come to me, and I take a look at their previous plans and what they've been eating, and then they have metabolic issues, I look at it and I go, holy moly, no wonder. Unfortunately, the sport can be healthy or it can be unhealthy. And again, it goes back to the education of people that individuals work with. And it's all part, you have to educate yourself. It's kind of like, there's good doctors and bad doctors, correct? It's the same thing. You have, coaches that are good, coaches not so good. And you have to take a look at the philosophy of each coach when you decide to work with somebody. So getting back to that, my philosophy has never been, like I said, deprivation. Deprivation causes a lot of problems. And, I've been doing this competing for, I guess, 5.5 years now. And I have not yet once had a metabolic issue, let alone my clients. And the reason for that is because I have a very different holistic approach to how I prep. So
that's so cool. And you also work with coaches. So when you receive, unless I'm mistaken, but when you receive like a plan from your own coaches or coach, how do you ever make changes? Do you let them know? Like, what's your approach on that?
here's the cool thing about my coach, Joe DeShulo and Ingrid Romero. So Joe does, my nutrition plan and my training plan. When I joined Team Edge, it was because I knew that Joe had the same philosophy as I did when it came to nutrition and prep. And so the changes that were made to my nutrition plan were not really that far off from what I was already doing. And it reinforced the fact that what I was doing was correct. So the only thing that I would say that I do, which works for my body and seems to work for my athletes that I manipulate a little bit, is I do give myself a weekly refeed meal. Sorry, Joe.
Secret's out.
But so that's one thing. And I work with an endocrinologist here in Hawaii that checks and monitors my blood every 6 months. All right. And when I started competing, she started kind of studying me and realized that, wow, this is really odd because you're actually reversing the aging process. Your hormones are going backwards, almost like you're in your early 30s, right? And so she wanted me to go in depth and describe how my training was, how my nutrition was, and she boiled it down to the weekly refeed meals that I have. I told her, yeah, I follow everything to a T. This is my diet, but this is the only thing that I change. And she says, you know what? That is what has spared your metabolism. Sorry, call was coming in. Turn that. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah. So that's really kind of, I think what's made a difference. And so as long as somebody's on track, and for the most part, my athletes, I stay in touch with them every week. They get that refeed meal every week up to until about 3 weeks out.
I love that. That's awesome. And I have to also attest to that. Joe we both obviously we're both on Team Edge, and Joe is an amazing coach. He absolutely is. And I think it's cool that you found so much of similar philosophies in him as well as in yourself and your approach. I think it's cool that you also have your own additions as well, and that even your endocrinologist has attested to those decisions. I think that's really great, and it's important and emphasizes the importance of following plans and setting plans in place that actually fit us, our lifestyle, our bodies, the results and goals that we want to achieve, and actually getting those set in motion. I think working with someone who can understand those as well as make adjustments as necessary is huge. And
Yeah.
I love that your Team Elite is actually an acronym for Everyday Lifestyle in Transition to Excellence. When I saw that, I was like, that all makes sense now. And so, like, now I'm kind of getting an idea of this from just this conversation so far, but I'm really wondering what inspired you to emphasize the importance of an everyday lifestyle, because we don't see that as often as I think we need to and should. I think there's a select few of us who really emphasize that importance, but
Mhm.
what is it that inspired you to create that change in the industry?
Well, I think we are the focus, in the competition world. Personally, this is just my opinion, is that we put too much focus on the competition, and the competitions and the prep that we do is supposed to enhance our lifestyle, not take away from it. So
Mm-hmm.
when you go into prep, or whether you're trying to do it for your health or whatever, your ultimate goal is to be excellent, and to improve every day, and all that you do, not just in a contest to win that, because ultimately, whether you get the trophy or not, you're gonna learn so much just from that whole process. And so everyday lifestyle in transition to excellence is just kind of trying to be better each day, in all we do.
Wow, you actually really painted a really good picture in my head when you said that. That cleared a lot up. I When you were talking and then when you said it at the end and you tied it back to everyday lifestyle and transition to excellence, I literally imagined a very fit, healthy, vibrant person deciding that, you know what, in a couple of weeks, it's no big deal. I'm going to step on stage and that's where my excellence is going to shine even more. But that doesn't mean that it's not excellent every day. It just means like now we're transitioning into
Yeah,
this.
yeah, but the lifestyle has to make you a better mom, a better wife, a better business person, a better dog mom, all of that.
Mhm.
I think the second that the competitive life takes away from anything that you do, it's not for everybody. And yes, there are sacrifices that I make that would seem like sacrifices to other people. But in my vision, it's not really a sacrifice, because it's what I need to do to get to my goals. And so
Mhm.
everybody has to understand what their goals are and where they want to be. And when you understand that, then is it really a sacrifice? you know? And so
Right.
yeah, it's not. So
Nope.
because you're ultimately doing what you want to do. So the
Mhm.
thing is, the sport can be so sometimes negative. Oh, I had to do this. Oh, I had to do that. Oh my God. It's like, well, nobody's making you do that. It's like, if you want to be good,
Right.
you want to be excellent at something, you got to do it. But then you have to embrace it with positive attitude, because you're putting yourself in that position. So if you don't like it, then don't.
Great. Take yourself out.
Yeah. So
Wow. Yeah, no, that's so true. Like I think a lot of people see it as something completely separate, but one mindset shift that I had occur within my own journey thus far in getting more into competing has been that the stage is like just one of those, it's just another day, right? It's just another day. It's not some far out thing. And yes, it does require more diligency, more discipline. There are things that it requires, but there is no, and I agree with you, there is no sacrifice when it's something that you really want. It's just a choice. It's a conscious choice that's going to move you forward in your goals. And when we see things as sacrifice, that puts us in this mindset of no freedom. It puts us in this mindset of deprivation. It puts us in this mindset
yeah,
of life is harder now. But
yeah.
if we it's literally just a mindset switch. If we just change that outlook,
I was just
like,
gonna say that it's a
look at that.
mindset.
It is. It really is. Like I think that the people who embrace it the most are the ones who like me and you, we don't see it as a sacrifice. We see it as the
Oh,
next best step in our journey.
yeah, no, it really is true, and it has to encompass your entire life as well. There's too many people out there that just unfortunately it becomes the center of their world. You know, and then they wonder, how come I'm not progressing, or how come I'm not doing well at these shows, and how come I'm not an IFBB pro. I mean, it's just you have to really understand your priorities, because the judges see that too. That's another thing too. When you're up there, the judges see what's authentic, and they understand what is genuine as well,
Mhm.
because you can't fake that on stage.
Right, exactly. Like if you're forcing yourself to step on stage just to do it,
Yeah.
well, you're wasting your time.
Yep.
No, I'm glad that you feel that way. And I love that you also incorporate that into your coaching programs. And as one of the oldest bikini pros to be on the Olympia and Arnold Classic stages, you're really a wonderful example of it also never being too late. And when people say it's too late, or, oh, that's nice, Geri, but for me, it's too late, I couldn't do that. What do you think is the real limiting belief or factor that's keeping them from feeling fully capable like you have become?
um I think it's just themselves. You have to visualize yourself being able to do it. I didn't become an IFBB pro on purpose. you know I think I just saw myself doing one thing after the next and just really enjoying the journey, and it just so happened that yeah, all of a sudden it's like, hey, why not? So I kept going. I just didn't have a ceiling for myself. I didn't say, I'll never make it to Olympia, or I'll never make it to Arnold's. I just did what I needed to do, and hopefully it was good enough, and it happened to be. And I think with people that are older, especially, they tend to stereotype themselves. you
Mhm.
know they listen too much to what maybe other people tell them as well, to becomes fact in their head, when honestly, it's they can do it. And so that's the thing too. Also, sacrifices, they look at what I do as a sacrifice, and so they're not willing to make changes within themselves, and that's totally fine too. It's a personal choice. Um, but ultimately, when you take a look at people, not just competitors, but other successful people in other, whether it's a sport or a business, they're very laser focused, and they do what it takes
Mhm.
to get there. So
Absolutely. And I think that there's like certain personalities where when you really want something, there's nothing that gets in your way. It's no longer a want, it's a already done thing. And when you take, it seems like there's a common theme here. It's that you really do take each day, each step, each action one by one, rather than seeing it as this far off thing, or, oh, I have to do this. It's like, no, this is just next thing, next thing. And it's
yeah.
consistent. And I think in terms of people following the social pattern or conditioning of there's an age limit, there's other limits like, well, you've never done it before, so why start now? Or this isn't your lifestyle, so why change it? But it's like it's all about how we view that transformation. If we view it as hard, if we view it as like a challenge, it's going to be a challenge, it's going to be difficult. But when we view it as something we really want, and nothing can stop us from actually achieving, I feel like that's where the action just comes naturally. It's just easy
Yeah,
at
you
that
have to
point.
want it. You really do have to want it. So I mean, that's the thing, and it's so true. When you see those things, if the only excuse, people that don't want it bad enough, that's the ones that have as many excuses as they'll make, and that's fine. It's all good too. So.
Right. You don't, like you said before, you don't have to do this. No one's forcing you, and you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to, like, no one
Definitely.
said you
And
couldn't.
one day I will probably retire. Yeah, yes, I am getting old, but at the same time, you can't do this forever. And so, I mean, I'd like to, but who knows? Things change, and so as my family, changes, as my our business evolves and grows, you know, um, I might get to the point where it's like, yeah, that was a part of my life, and it's done, So
Exactly.
yeah, no
That's
regrets. You
true.
never gonna live life with no regrets, and so. But I'm not done yet.
Watch out.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Like life goals change, emotional goals change. Like no
Yeah.
matter where you're at in your journey, it's just the only thing that really is important is that you're honoring what your soul really wants and then you're following those nudges to actually do that
Exactly.
because if you just ignore them, you're not going to get the most out of it. So then it's like almost like wasted time. I mean, there's no wasted time. I feel like we learn a lesson in
Yeah,
everything.
definitely.
But I think if we're not able to maximize the moment as much, if we are just like, doing something because we feel like we have to or need to, or it'll get us XYZ. It's like, well, what is it that's really driving you to do that every day?
Exactly.
So now, going back to family and the way that you've really represented the love and the commitment to your family, how about your relationship? How's everything with your husband? How did those things change?
It didn't really change that much, really. It's funny because it's really important to be with somebody that understands the whole lifestyle. I'm not talking just about competitive lifestyle, but healthy lifestyle. And so from the day we met, we actually shared that as a very common thread. So we both trained, we both ate healthy, um, and so transitioning into a competitive lifestyle was not that difficult because we were already doing it.
That's true.
So my husband does not bring home Ben and Jerry's when I'm on prep. He understands that if we're going to, a function, I have to bring my own food. He doesn't get embarrassed by that because some husbands do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't get the guilt, wow, well, you've been at the gym for 2 hours. When are you going to come home? I never get that. And in fact, there's days when I don't want to get out of bed and my alarm goes off and he's like, hey, dude, you got to get out of bed.
That's
Like,
awesome.
no. Um, but it has changed in the sense that he has had to play a more supportive role with our son because it does require me to travel. I did
Mm,
8 shows last year. 4 of them, happened within 8 weeks, and
wow.
so we're very lucky that he has the ability because he's also self-employed to be able to do that. So yeah, turn into Mr. Dad.
That's so cool. No, that's awesome. And I love that you mentioned it's just important to find someone who aligns with like your lifestyle goals. Otherwise, it will be a more difficult transition. But if you already have that love or you guys can find that love together, that makes it easier. So I kind of want to go into a piece of advice. And I always end the podcast with this just to kind of close out with advice that people who are thinking about competing or people who are currently competing and want to end up in places like you on like the most prestigious stages, what's some advice that you'd give to someone actually in that position thinking about competing or currently competing with the dreams of going pro?
Um, I hear this all the time. I want to be an IFBB pro all the
Mhm.
time, right? So my question to them is why? Why is it so important for you to become an IFBB pro? What is that going to do for you, right? So a lot of people, I think, kind of go on that route, with the wrong intentions and never make it. And so again, they really have to evaluate what it is that's driving them, right? Is it, I got this one time, I want to be famous like you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, I didn't do this to become famous, and nor do I ever
Right.
look at myself as being famous, right? Um, so I think a person has to evaluate why the heck they're doing it, right? And I can't answer that for that person, but it really they have to make sure that they stay grounded in the sport and really know who they are, because the
Mhm.
sport can change you in a good way or in a bad way. And if you're already a little bit lost and you're looking at the sport to make you whole, then it's probably not the right way to go, because this sport is in addition to everything else that you are. It's not, it doesn't become you, is what I'm saying. And so the IFBB Pro on my name is after my name because I am first. And then the IFBB Pro is a part of me. So I'm not saying, there's people there's go IFBB Pro Geri Berger, but to me it's the other way around,
That's awesome.
So that's kind of my advice is find out your why and then educate yourself. Make sure that you find a coach that fits your philosophies and understands your why as well.
I love that. That's so awesome. And I think that that's a great piece of advice for people to take away. And it seems as though finding your why has been a common theme on this podcast. And I love your point too, which is that you are who you are first and the rest just follows. And that's awesome. It really is an addition. And I appreciate you giving that advice and sharing that. And I'd love for you to also tell everyone where they can connect with you so that they can tell you how awesome this episode was.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Yes, it's been such a pleasure, seriously.
Well, my Instagram obviously is on there. It's my name and then _ IFBB Pro. And also my website, which is my name, Geri Berger, and then ifbbpro.com. And that's it. Everything is on my website and on my Instagram as well.
That's
Love
awesome.
to hear from everybody. And so I'm planning on actually doing a live broadcast sometime on Instagram, doing the 101 posing.
Woo! Don't miss that.
Yeah.
Don't miss that.
And so that'll be, stay tuned on that one. I'll post at least a week in advance so that you can reserve the time. But it'll be just a casual live thing on just basic posings. And then if people have any questions, I can answer them as well.
That's so awesome of you. I'm going to be there. That's exciting. I love that. I love learning about people's posing and the way that they approach it. And everybody listening, make sure you check out the show notes page. That's where you're going to be able to click links to her website and also follow her on Instagram. That's www.celestial.fit/podcast. Of course, please let us know what you think of the episode. If you have any other questions, we're always happy to connect with you. And thank you so much, Geri, for joining us today. It's been, like I said, such a pleasure, and the amount of value and insight you shared, and it's just been amazing. So thank you.
Well, my pleasure. Like I said, always love sharing my passion with equally passionate people. So mahalo, as we say in Hawaii.
Awesome. All right. Have a good one, guys.
Aloha.